Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I hope you're having a wonderful day. As always, my name is Ksenia International and I make videos for people who, like myself, are going through the family-based immigration process. So just a quick disclaimer that I am not an immigration attorney. My videos are based on publicly available information and the experience of my subscribers as well as my own experience. Today, we're going to talk about Form I-864A, the contract between the sponsor and the household member. In the first part of this video, I'm going to talk about what Form I-864A is and who needs to submit it. And then the second part of this video is going to be dedicated to how to fill out Form I-864A. In the case when the petitioner or the primary sponsor does not make enough income needed to sponsor an intending immigrant, they generally have two options. Option number one is to get a joint sponsor, and the second option is to ask for help from household members. Let's quickly talk about the distinction between a joint sponsor and a household member. So a joint sponsor can be anyone as long as they are 18 years of age and they are a US citizen or a permanent resident. Joint sponsors will fill out an additional form I-864. They will have to provide proof of their US citizenship or status as a permanent resident, and they will also need to submit necessary financial evidence such as their tax transcripts, W-2s, as well as any additional financial evidence such as a verification letter from their employer and pay stubs, as well as bank statements, etc. A joint sponsor does not have to be related to the petitioner or the intending immigrant. It can be a family friend, it can be a relative if they do not reside with you. And another thing to remember is that a joint sponsor may not combine their income with the petitioner. So a joint sponsor must be able to bear the full financial responsibility according to the poverty guidelines. A joint sponsor will include the intending immigrant in their household size. Let's talk about who can be a household member. So a household member can be either A, the intending immigrant, if they are currently working in the United States and their employment will continue from the same legal source after becoming a green card holder. A household member can also be the sponsor's spouse, parent, son or daughter, or a sibling who resides with the sponsor in the same residence. And finally, a household member can also be anybody that the sponsor claims on their own tax returns, even if they're not related to the sponsor, and also even if they do not reside with the sponsor. So if you have any other dependents that you list on your tax returns who are obviously of age, 18 or older as well, in the case that a household member helps you financially, they will need to fill out Form I-864A, with the exception of the intending immigrant. If you are the intending immigrant and you're planning to be a household member and you don't have any dependents immigrating with you, in this case, you do not need to fill out and sign Form I-864A. The great thing about household members is that they can combine their income with the petitioner, and it can be very helpful if the petitioner doesn't meet the income requirement just by a little bit. A household member can definitely help them supplement this income. You will be able to calculate a total household income. You will have to include household members on the petitioner's affidavit of support form I-864. The household members will also need to each fill out the form I-864A, and both the sponsor and the household member will need to sign the form I-864A in the appropriate fields. So the household members will also need to provide the following supporting documents. They will need to provide proof of their income in the form of their W-2s, tax returns, or tax transcripts, as well as any additional financial information that may be helpful, such as an employment verification letter, pay stubs, and bank statements. In addition, the household members will need to provide proof of relationship to the sponsor and their proof of residency, if applicable, to the sponsor as well. So if your parents are your household members and they will help you financially support the intending immigrant, you will need to provide something like a copy of your birth certificate showing that you are indeed related to these people. And also you will have to provide some kind of mail or the tax documents or copies of driver's licenses proving that you also reside at the same address. So I hope now you understand the distinction between a joint sponsor and a household member. I see a lot of confusion sometimes when people say that they have a joint sponsor. However, after talking to them, I find out that actually the joint sponsor in question is their spouse. So in this case, I have to direct them to the appropriate form. The spouse of a petitioner, if they are contributing their income as well, are considered a household member and not a joint sponsor. I see the same mistake when people will say, oh, my household member will help me out. However, they're talking about a relative that does not reside with them. And in this case, even though, yes, they are related to you, because they do not reside with you in the same place, they cannot be your household member. And lastly, I cannot stress this enough. If you, the petitioner, do not make enough income and you will be getting help from a joint sponsor or a household member, you will still have to fill out Form I-864. And so now I will show you how to complete the Form I-864A step by step. Okay, so let's get started. So this form is called the Contract Between Sponsor and Household Member, Form I-864A. The current edition for the form expires on December 31st, 2023. We can ignore this top part right here because this is not for us. We're going to start right here where it says Start Here. And again, you can fill out by typing or you can fill out this form in black ink. So the first part here asks about the household member. So the person who is helping the petitioner by contributing their income. So we're just going to say it's John Doe. And next, provide the mailing address. In most cases, the household members will be residing in the same place as the sponsor. Moving on, you want to select right here if your mailing address is the same as your physical address. As you can see, if we select yes, then this part right here does not need to be filled out again, the physical address. However, if you select no, then you can see this is asking us to provide the physical address. However, we're just going to select yes. Moving on to the next section after this, we have the information such as date of birth. Again, this information is all about the household member. Your place of birth, your social security number. If you don't have a USCIS account number, you don't have to write anything here. In part 2, they're asking to provide your relationship to the sponsor. So here you have several options from which you can select. You can either select that you are the intending immigrant and also the sponsor's spouse. This will only be applicable if you, the intending immigrant, will be bringing derivative applicants with you. If you will not have any derivative applicants and you're the only person immigrating, in this case, you do not have to fill out Form I-864A. So the second option here is I am the intending immigrant and also the member of the sponsor's household. So this would be, for example, the parent of the petitioner or brother or sister or adult son or daughter, for example. So you can select this. And the next option you have is for people who are not the intending immigrants. This is the most frequent option that I see. And then you have to just provide your relationship to the sponsor. So you can say, I am the sponsor's spouse, son or daughter, parent, brother or sister, or other dependent. So this option, as I explained earlier in the video, is for people who are listed as dependents on the sponsor's tax returns, even if they're not related to the sponsor. Well, in our case, we're just going to say that John Doe is the sponsor's spouse. Moving on to part 3, here they're asking about the household member's employment and income. So you can select that you are either employed as someone, or that you are self-employed, here's another option, or that you are retired or unemployed. So you're going to select either one of these, and then later down here, you're going to provide your current individual income. This question is very similar to the question in the affidavit of support for the sponsor, for the petitioner. And again, this number right here is an estimate of how much you will earn for the year during which you're filing this application. So right now we are in 2022. So here you would want to put an estimate of how much money you're estimated to make in this year 2022. Moving on to part 4, here you're going to have to provide your federal income tax information and assets, but assets are optional. So here first question asks if you have filed income tax return for the past 3 years. You can either say yes or no, and just to be clear, only the most recent year's tax return is required. So the other 2 are optional. And if you haven't filed for all 3 years, you can say no. And at the end of the application, in the additional information page, you can provide a justification for why you haven't filed for the past 3 years. And then 1B, you can also select, this is optional, you can choose to attach photocopies of income tax returns for second and third most recent tax years. Usually it is a really good idea to provide as much information as you can. All of these questions are basically the same as in the original affidavit of support form, so there isn't any tricks here that are specific to the household members. The information is basically all the same. So here you're going to provide your total income as reported on the federal tax returns for the most recent 3 years. So you're going to look at the total income line on your tax returns and write exactly what that number was. The adjusted gross income will only be written if you have submitted Form 1040-EZ. And here you, as you can see, we provided the tax returns for most recent 3 years. I frequently get a question, especially right now, if the sponsor or the household member haven't yet filed the 2021 tax returns, should they be writing their most recent year as the tax year 2020? Well, technically, because the taxes are not due yet, meaning that I believe April 15th is the due date, right? Technically, you should be able to use your 2020 taxes. However, I'm just going to be honest with you guys based on what I have seen and based on the experience of my subscribers. If you are submitting your application right now around, first few months of the year, they are still going to send you a request for evidence, unfortunately. And I also discussed this in my most recent video about affidavit of support RFEs. So the best course of action right now is for you to file the 2021 taxes and provide those as your most recent tax year. This way you're maximizing your chances of not getting an RFE. So another question that I get a lot is, what if I am self-employed? What kind of information would I write here? Because on the self-employment tax returns, there isn't really such thing as total income. There's either adjusted gross income, net income, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a clear answer for self-employed sponsors because USCIS does not really have a very clear guideline, and it's best suggest that you either consult with an attorney or check out one of the immigrant Facebook groups, talk to your accountant. You're going to have to provide way more than just your tax returns. You're going to have to provide your business license, your business certificate, some kind of certified letter that states the name and the nature of your business. You want to obtain some kind of letter from an accountant that can help you summarize all of your revenues, your profits, your losses. You're going to have to provide schedules C, any other schedule that you use for your business. So all of that must be provided. Moving on to the next part right here about assets. And again, this is needs to be completed only if it's necessary. So if you do not meet the income requirement, then you can use your assets to supplement this income. Check out the form instructions that describe exactly what is the value that you need to have in assets, etc. And so finally, the last two parts are dedicated specifically to the signatures. So remember that this form is a legally binding contract, and it's really easy to get confused in this part specifically. Part 5 is the sponsor's promise, statement, contact information, declaration, certification, and signatures. So this will be the sponsor's signature, not the household member that filled out this part, but the original sponsor who filled out the original affidavit of support. So read the penalties section in the instructions. Then here, the sponsor, the form instructions say that you can either type or print in here, and right here you want to indicate the number of the following named intending immigrants that you will be sponsoring. In our case, it's just the one person. We'll just say that Jane Doe is petitioning for her mother. And so if you look on the next page, here we have her mother's information here under the intending immigrant number 1, date of birth, alien number, social security, USCIS. If you don't have any of this, you can leave this blank. Any other intending immigrants, if we don't have any, we'll just say these areas are blank or not applicable. According to USCIS, here you should only be writing the names of immigrants that are listed on the I-864 form. Say you are a U.S. citizen and you're sponsoring different immediate family members, such as both of your parents, for example. Because you are submitting separate affidavits of support for each of your immediate relatives, you're going to have to fill out also a separate I-864A form for each of those immediate relatives. So for instance, if you as the petitioner submitted 2 affidavits of support for each of your parents, the household member cannot write both of your parents on one I-864A. In this case, they will need to fill out a separate I-864A that will go together with the I-864 form for each of your relatives that require a separate affidavit. If, for instance, the household member is helping sponsor somebody who has derivatives on one application, then obviously you can choose to include them and the derivatives here as well. So just to clarify that. And if you're still a little bit confused, I suggest that you watch all the videos that I have specifically on the affidavit of support form in my affidavit of support playlist. The more you watch, the more comfortable you will get in understanding how this whole household size situation works. Moving on, here as a sponsor, you will have to select one of these, whether you can read and understand English, or if there was an interpreter that read you all the questions, and then also if there was a preparer who prepared these forms for you, you can select this here. Next, provide the sponsor's contact information, so phone number and email, and down here you want to sign and date. Remember to sign in pen. Do not type anything here. Do not sign digitally. It has to be signed by hand. And now moving on to part 6, here is the household member's promise and signature. So now John Doe, Jane Doe's husband, will have to sign. Again, very similar. I, the household member, type or print your name. Here you're going to type the number of intending immigrants that you are sponsoring. And then at the end, you're going to have to select whether you, again, can read and understand English or if you used an interpreter. And then if you used a preparer, you can select this right here. Finally, you're going to provide, again, your phone number, your email as the household member, read this declaration, and then type or print your name, sign in pen, and date. Again, it says printed name, but you can also type it. However, the only part that absolutely must be signed in pen is the signature. And finally, if you use an interpreter, you can provide this information here, but again, if it's not applicable, just say not applicable. And same applies to part 8, the preparer's information, again, can be left blank. And finally, the additional information page. If there's anything that you would like to clarify, you can include this here. And I also have a video specifically talking about how to use the additional information page. I hope you guys found this video useful. Please give this video a like so more people can see it. Subscribe to my channel so we can help more people. And I hope to see you in my next videos. Bye.